give you a perfect example that happens to me in the country I'm living in right now in Eastern Europe. People drive like maniacs and are extremely inconsiderate. And it'll be, you know, in the course of one of my walks, you know, I'll see some guy, you know, who's slowing down at the last minute so you can cross, or so like an old lady can cross. And I think, fuck this motherfucker, inconsiderate motherfucker, right? I hope he crashes. That's a thought that reverberates through my head. And truly, I mean, I think I don't have much sympathy for people who are that inconsiderate. Even when I'm not upset, they can go fuck themselves as far as I'm concerned. But I don't want to be angry, right? So immediately, um, I'm choosing a focus change. I'm registering, okay, that anger came to me, but I'm not staying in that state. Um, to me, that's mental toughness. The ability to regulate your emotions, the ability to refrain from being in negative thought patterns. Um, I remember this quote from Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York, and guy who built Bloomberg Technologies. You can think what you want about his politics. Personally, I don't give a shit about politics. But he just said, you know, he didn't have time for bad days anymore. And I thought that was a really cool quote. Like, you just don't have time to do that bullshit anymore. And if you look at pretty much everyone that you admire, they're always of a cheerful disposition, usually, right? Um, you know, anybody that's successful, you know, politicians, Donald Trump, Jeff Bezos, you know, every interview he's cheerful despite what's going on, and that's a sign of mental strength. Um, Being depressed, consistently going into depressed, is a sign of mental weakness. Okay, it's not trying to beat up on anybody or say that, you know, your circumstances aren't valid. And it's something that I experienced a lot, but I was doing it to myself. I was choosing that state. Um, and you have total control over that, which is great news. And even if you're not able to get into a high enough state, you're at least able to, when you're greeting people and stuff, being able to present um, a positive attitude, right? Um, that's mental toughness, consistently. And if you want to see some of these, you know, examples taken to the extreme, I love reading about soldiers, you know, going through crazy things, and I love reading about guys in prison surviving these crazy prison wars and being able to come out of it, you know, in shape, mentally on point, up early every morning, like coming out of it like a true soldier, with a positive attitude, you know, because it shows what's possible for the human spirit, in terms of mental toughness, and, you know, in terms of being able to be happy despite whatever's going on around you. And ultimately, money and girls and whatever it is that you're chasing are just tools for happiness. So start with happiness. Um, you know, your state is really all you have. So don't let someone else take that. Don't let, you know, someone else take up rent, take up space inside your head rent free. You know, allow them to make you sad or angry or throw your state off. And a lot of the time, the negative thoughts are almost always about people. Um, you know, don't allow the problems of the world, the politics, or, you know, people starving around the world. Don't allow that to throw you off your game. That's mental toughness too. Being able to shut out, like, from a structural perspective, not watching the news, not watching politics, not watching any of these things that hijack your amygdala, your fear, your fight or flight responses. Not going into sadness or nihilism over what's going on in the world, or not going into anger over some politician did something. Controlling that reality from a structural perspective, like minimizing and getting rid of as many negative outputs as possible and as many negative people as possible, is a sign of mental toughness. And then being hyper vigilant with awareness of your reality, and awareness of your thoughts, and just choosing not to go into negative states and catching yourself. Like, I'll forget an hour from now. I'm gonna head over to the gym. I'll forget an hour from now, and I'll see someone do something crazy on the road, and I'll think, "Fuck this motherfucker," and then catch myself, because I'm getting faster and faster every year. But that awareness is key, and then make mental toughness part of your character. Just start telling yourself, like, you're a tough guy. You know, your character, your pride is based around that reality that you're mentally tough. You know, I've got a client of mine who lost a parent, you know, had another parent get sick, didn't even slow his roll in terms of like really aggressive business goals. You know, despite the fact he's flying back and forth, planning a funeral, has a wife and kids, you know, and some things going on, you know, in the business, and you know, like, and cheerful as ever, because that's what you want, really. That's what all this stuff is for, to be able to be happy, right? So start with that and start recognizing, like, being tough is part of your character. You're tough, but you're going to choose not to go into these negative thought states, and then it just becomes a part of you. It just becomes a new habit. And you might be the first person in your family history, like, you know, there are families where you're the first person to go to university, or you're the first person to start a business in hundreds of years of that family. You might also be the first person to become mentally tough and have a positive attitude despite what's going on. You know, because you're coming from this vacuum of negativity, which a lot of people are coming from. You know, I wouldn't have much of a business if people were coming, if everyone was raised by Richard Branson or somebody. Okay. So make toughness a part of your character, make it part of your pride. Start with that. Recognize that it can't be taken from you, even in a prison cell. That there's guys out there, there's guys doing, you know, 15 years locked up, some, you know, half of that time in the hole in confinement, that are able to keep a positive attitude. So whatever problems you have are fucking small in comparison. And as I get older, I recognize the only real problems are health, right? Like, relationships, you can always find another girl. Money, you can make more money, like, once you know what you're doing. Health, you know, feeling sick or whatever is the real problem, man. The rest of it's all small time stuff. Read about these guys just going through it and who are able to keep positive, and you're just going to feel like a little bitch for whining about your problems, and immediately it just puts everything in perspective, and then you're good to be being happy again. So recognize that you have to be hard to be happy. Okay, not in that sense, although with the right girl, you know, that certainly helps. And you need to be tough to be happy. So make it a part of your character. And guess what? It's totally free. Doesn't cost you anything. And the benefits are massive, enormous, never ending. Make it part of who you are. Consistently choose to be upstate. Consistently choose to be above neutral. Consistently choose not to go into depression, doubt, anxiety, fear. Recognize when those thoughts come to you. Recognize, you know, be honest with yourself about they're coming to you. But choose not to indulge them. Choose not to go into those spirals. Choose not to sit there for 2 hours being, quote, overwhelmed by them. And choose a focus change into something positive. A lot of the time it's just heading back, being on point on your business, being on point on your mission. The mission just clarifies and shuts so many things out that you'll forget about what you're upset about.